From the heart of Central Florida, you're listening to the most electrifying show in media. A Neighbor's Choice. I'm your host, your neighbor, David Gornoski. Glad to be back with you once again here on this Thursday, where we're having another exciting live show for you, where we're going to talk about politics, economics, everything, and then later on, Science and You with Dr. You. He'll be joining us later in the program. And we want to give you a full course of different issues and distill it into a way that we can learn based on principles of personhood and love of our neighbor as the guiding keystone to navigate all these dark and negative news stories that are always inundating our minds. We got to be able to break through the darkness and bring some sunshine to the whole situation. So right now, joining me now is the president of the Mises Institute, someone who is a fan of liberty and peace and being against endless wars and all of the basic common sense stuff that much of us in much of America intuitively agree with. The president of the Mises Institute, Jeff Deist. How you doing, Jeff?
Hey, David. I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing fine, and it's great to hear you again because, you know, it's another crazy, wild news cycle, and we have to be able to cut through all the noise and try to find those principal takeaways that we can share, because ultimately we're all part of the news media. We all tell stories, right? And there's narratives abounding. And, you know, you recently did a story about how, on Mises.org, about how the coronavirus propaganda mimics war propaganda, which is, you know, the stories we tell to go to war.
Yeah, it's very similar. You know, government is good at promoting half-truths, untruths, fabrications, distortions, however you want to characterize it, that compel people to think the government's right. In other words, to steer the public's perception towards supporting certain policies. And there are softer and harder versions of that. Harder versions would be in Nazi Germany. Softer versions would be in America 2020. But all governments do it.
Right.
They want to get public support, public opinion behind their policies. And so we've had basically a blizzard of information, much of it false, about the severity of this COVID virus. And as a result of that, an awful lot of Americans supported the shutdowns, continue to support the shutdowns, continue to resist reopening, continue to wildly exaggerate in their minds the ongoing or lingering threat posed by this virus, and continue to underestimate the almost unbelievable amount of economic damage that's being done, you know, under the pretense that this virus is incredibly deadly and it's some sort of existential threat. So, you know, there were a lot of things said around the period between the 9/11 terrorist attacks and ultimately our invasion of Iraq. There were a lot of things said about what Saddam Hussein, you know, what his weapons capabilities were, what his connections to the 9/11 terrorists were, all kinds of things like that. And they turned out later to be false. And so we have to be on our guard, David, against this kind of stuff. We have to be less gullible. And, you know, I think that this is really a test for America. I think at the moment we're failing it. I think that we could have dealt with this coronavirus in much less draconian ways that would have, you know, impinged upon our freedom and especially our economy far less.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I've noticed is that it's sad how powerful groupthink is when it's based in fear, you know. And I remember the Iraq War, you know, they said the Iraqis would welcome us as liberators. They said Hussein was with Al-Qaeda, right?
Well, liberators, and now 17 years later, we're still engaged in the business of liberating Iraq and no end in sight. And even the green zone, the huge strip of land where we've installed what we call an embassy, but what really is a permanent military base and an intelligence operations starting point. You know, even the green zone continues to have security issues. So even where we basically created a little patch of land that we call America in Iraq, we can't even keep that secure because it's not our country. And any people anywhere are going to resist occupation by another country. It's the most natural thing in the world. And so, I would consider Iraq an enormous foreign policy failure, one of the biggest in U.S. history, and I sure as hell hope that this COVID shutdown doesn't become, the same kind of propaganda campaign which we're going to regret.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that you point out in your article at Mises.org. You talk about how they keep saying that asymptomatic people can spread it unknowingly, and I think that's kind of the big fear par excellence that has been, widely used to get everybody still in a state of agitation, right? And that there's no evidence for that. In fact, there's some early studies coming out saying, no, that's absolutely not the case. And again, the data is always confusing in these emerging moments. But I just saw the other day, some doctor was talking about how the evidence is coming out saying, no, asymptomatic people aren't spreading it. It's people who have the real symptoms.
Well, haste is always bad when it comes to government action. You never, ever want to see a big, powerful government with, a big, powerful tool at its disposal sort of thrashing around trying to decide what's happening day to day. And that's what we've had here. It's very, very dangerous. And, of course, there's something called the fog of war, which means that especially early on in a conflict or in a crisis, you hear a lot of information, a lot of rumors are bustling about, and you don't know what's true and what isn't. And so you ought to be circumspect and not make long-lasting decisions until you have more clarity. And that's what we've seen. We've seen the fog of war with respect to this virus. At the beginning, everyone thought, well, we got to be 20 feet apart because it can float in the air. And now it's, 6 feet. And, some people say masks are good because they keep you from exhaling the virus on others. Some people say masks are bad because you touch them all day, the virus gets trapped in your mask, and worse yet, you're breathing back in a lot of your own CO2, which you ought to be exhaling. You hear different stories about whether asymptomatic people can spread it. You hear different stories about whether children are somehow some sort of threat to their grandparents. I mean, it just goes on, and it makes you understand why, we need more flexible approaches. We don't need a top-down approach, especially in a country this big. And really, it's, what we might consider information coming from our government, we have to look at these days with a more jaundiced eye. We have to understand that it's propaganda, and that's not just something that happens in other countries or in bad countries like Iran. It's something that happens here as well.
And the fact that millions of people are they're waking up to the propaganda element of media, how come, we're believers in the power of markets, how come the market hasn't been able to bring to the fore more outlets with robust standards of quality for, journalism and integrity?
Yeah, it really is a tough question, and it's especially tough in light of we're hearing today about the Trump administration's proposed executive order, which would have an impact on social media companies. The journalism is a strange business. It oftentimes is not particularly profitable. You look at a lot of magazines and websites, for example, lose money. A lot of newspapers, especially since Craigslist came along and destroyed all their classified ad revenue. A lot of newspapers don't make money. That's why you have something like the Washington Post becomes almost like a hobby or a pet interest, a vanity project of someone, a rich guy like Jeff Bezos. So, it's a tough business, and when you have advertisers, you have to sort of, you have to get eyeballs, you have to get clicks, you have to get ratings. And so, I don't worry as much about our media companies as I do the government itself. I mean, we have a media that is certainly overly credulous when it comes to what government tells it. And so the only pushback is partisan. Some media is left-wing, some media is right, but virtually all media sort of accepts the role of the state itself.
Right, that's always the given there, isn't it? That's always the indispensable asset to any issue is we've got to have more government force to save us, right?
Right, and whether Trump's new executive order is in fact more government force is going to be probably litigated in court. I think that we have this mythology in our minds that there used to be this fair, independent, objective journalistic class. When Walter Cronkite, chaired the evening news every night, you could trust that he wasn't lying to you about Vietnam or something like that. Well, that's not really true. If you go back even to colonial times in America, and certainly the times around the ratification of the Constitution, we have always had so-called yellow dog journalism. We've always had rabid attacks, ad hominem character attacks on political opponents and on public figures. This is something that has always endured throughout American history. And so, for me personally, in terms of my own opinion, my own view on this, I would rather live in a country that sort of has the Wild West on social media and online. A really, really robust First Amendment, even with all of the pain that might cause some people, defamation, whatever it might be, than have a country where government, of all things, is making the decisions about what we see and hear. Now, the intermediary here is, of course, the tech companies themselves, the media companies themselves. I'm not very happy with them, but that doesn't make me lust for the Trump administration or any future administration to regulate it all.
We're speaking with Jeff Deist, president of Mises.org. We'll continue live in just a moment.
A lawsuit is not something that anyone looks forward to. It can be devastating. There is a law firm in Tampa Bay that will keep you informed throughout the entire process. That law firm is Catania & Catania. Personal injury law is defended with full disclosure. There is no guessing game. If it's an auto accident, medical malpractice, nursing home negligence, unsafe working conditions, or motorcycle accidents, the law firm of Catania & Catania will handle the process worry-free from start to finish. Many victims do not even realize that they can claim compensation for their loss until they talk to Catania & Catania. They only represent private individuals and treat every case as if it's going to trial. Putting families first is more than just a slogan. It's their way of practicing law. It's a commitment to you. Remember, they don't get paid if you don't get paid. So go to CataniaCatania.com, award-winning over 28 years and family first. Catania & Catania, personal injury, auto accident, and motorcycle accident attorneys.
Hi, I'm Dr. Michael Lang, board-certified optometric physician and certified nutritional specialist, host of popular talk show Ask the Doctor. I've researched and developed an amazing new omega-3 product that you'll see incredible results with. It's called Fortify Super Omega-3 Max. I had one of the top Norwegian omega-3 research teams in conjunction with myself and Fortify Vitamins aid in the development of this advanced omega-3. This product is the most potent and purest triglyceride form omega-3 in the United States today. Omega-3 is great for all aspects of your health and well-being, especially in this unprecedented, challenging time. I'm giving a 25% discount with promo code RADIO during this viral pandemic. Go to my website, fortify.com. That's FORTIFEYE. Remember the EYE in Fortify. That's fortify.com. Enter the promo code RADIO to receive the 25% discount.
One thing that we have learned from a pandemic is that if we are healthy, we are less likely to be susceptible to grave sickness. With that said, stem cell activation is a big part of keeping ourselves healthy. By activating your own stem cells, you experience energy, sleep, reduction in pain, and a support system that promotes faster healing from wounds. LifeWave B radio patches are an easy, cost, affordable way to activate stem cells. Clinical studies demonstrate that LifeWave patches reset the genes in the body to a younger and healthier state. By wearing the daily patch, your body will activate stem cells to benefit a healthier and productive life. Go to lifeway.com/B radio to see how you can elevate, activate, and regenerate your life with stem cell therapy. There is a special offer with B Radio. The address again is lifewave.com/B radio. The address again is lifewave.com/B radio. Live healthier and wiser with the LifeWave B radio patches at lifewave.com/B radio.
Welcome back to A Neighbor's Choice. We're live and we're here with Jeff Deist, who's the president of Mises.org. So Mises.org is their website where you can learn about free market economics and the case for liberty when it comes to our economic affairs. And we just heard moments ago, Donald Trump just made some comments on the executive order he just issued about social media in response to Twitter's regulation or label about his latest tweets. So let's hear a little bit of that and we'll get Jeff's comments.
Currently, social media giants like Twitter receive an unprecedented liability shield based on the theory that they're a neutral platform, which they are not an editor with a viewpoint. My executive order calls for new regulations under Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act to make it that social media companies that engage in censoring or any political conduct will not be able to keep their liability shield. That's a big deal. They have a shield. They can do what they want. They have a shield. They're not going to have that shield. My executive order further instructs the Federal Trade Commission, FTC, to prohibit social media companies from engaging in any deceptive acts or practices affecting commerce. This authority resides in Section 5 of the Federal Trade Commission Act. I think you know it pretty well. Most of you know it very well. I would think you know it quite well, right? Additionally, I'm directing the Attorney General to work cooperatively with the states. He's going to be working very much and very closely in cooperation with the states to enforce their own laws against such deceptive business practices. The states have broad and powerful authority to regulate in this arena, and they'll be doing it also, and we encourage them to do it if they see exactly as we've been seeing. It's what they're doing is tantamount to monopoly, you can say. It's tantamount to taking over the airwaves. Can't let it happen. Otherwise, we're not going to have a democracy. We're not going to have anything to do with a republic. Finally, I'm directing my administration to develop policies and procedures to ensure taxpayer dollars are not going in any social media company that repress free speech.
Jeff Deist, that's fresh off the presses. Any thoughts? I mean, it's right off.
Yeah, wow, a lot there. And I understand what he's saying. I certainly agree with number 3. His third bullet was that federal agencies shouldn't be spending money advertising or using platforms like Twitter, Facebook, and I think they do. Like, for example, I think the military branches run recruiting ads, that sort of thing. So his first big point is really a big one. When he kept talking about these companies have a shield, what he means is that they're exempt from liability for basically defamation lawsuits. And so we got to put this in context a little bit. As he mentioned the Communications Decency Act of 1996. Well, that's starting to be a long time ago. And, at that time, the Internet was pretty new, and there weren't social media companies at all. And there really were barely search engines, David. Most people back then thought of a tech company as something like AOL, an internet service provider, or a web hosting company where you actually hosted a website. But most people actually typed into their browser to go to a site back then. They didn't search so much on search engines. Search engines were very, very new. There was Netscape and Alta Vista and a few of those. But again, no social media companies. So the bill was drafted at a time when things were very different. You thought, well, we don't want to strangle the Internet in its infancy. And if someone like AOL is providing a platform where users come on and, on using that platform, one user defames another, let's say says something untrue about someone, we certainly, AOL shouldn't be sued. AOL is just a platform, a technological platform where this conversation or this editorializing or whatever takes place. So that made a lot of sense. But you fast forward to today, you've got an era of social media, and Twitter, Facebook, Google, they really are taking a look at content. They really are making decisions based on what kind of content they think is false or misleading, or they just politically don't like it. And so Twitter can ban or shadow ban people or kick them off the platform, so can Facebook. And Google can disappear search results. What if it doesn't like a website like antiwar.com or Mises.org? It can just make it so that no searches from those websites show up on the first 20 or 30 pages of Google search results. There's a lot of ways that they can effectively censor, and I think Trump is right. I think these companies are acting in an editorial capacity. But that said, I disagree with Trump that the answer is for the federal government to step in and regulate how they do this. I mean, as unsatisfying as it is, I think we really do have to suck it up and try to figure out how to build out alternative platforms where people are freer or more conservative and libertarian thought is more welcome. Because, I mean, what he's suggesting is not to have Congress rewrite that 1996 bill. He's suggesting that his administration basically usurp the congressional function altogether and have federal agencies, interpret that old law differently. So, you get into some pretty gray areas about whether Congress needs to do this, and I think Congress, if we're going to have changes, I think Congress ought to change the law, not any president. I'm not a fan of executive orders. So there's a lot to unpackage here. As usual, I don't like Trump's methods, but as usual, I understand his motivations. These social media companies really are full of people who I think are deeply biased, and it's not just that they have a political point of view, it's that they have an agenda, and they actively want to use these huge companies, which are data collectors, to promote those agendas. One of their biggest agendas, we all know, is get Trump. There's no question about it. Silicon Valley wants him gone, and it's a scary time. You got to hand it to Trump for fighting back, which conservatives haven't done. David, they've gotten steamrolled now for decades in the culture wars, in the content wars, in the education wars, in the hearts and minds wars. They've gotten steamrolled, and this guy pushes back. But I think the way he goes about it is wrong. I think it's illegal, and I think it'll actually come back to bite us on you-know-what, because the authority Trump takes today to regulate content is the same authority that Joe Biden or whoever has down the road.
Yeah, as a comment, he said, "Nothing I'd rather do than get rid of my whole Twitter account." So that might have more power, actually, if he did a market maneuver instead of an executive order,
Yeah, that would really be something. I think Twitter traffic would drop 20% overnight.
I don't know what those folks would do to rail at an inactive Twitter account. They'd have to make up a new account to tag them, right, in their anger?
Well, he's not a free market guy. He didn't run as a free market guy, and he doesn't attempt to govern as a free market guy. So none of this should surprise us. But at the end of the day, it's up to us to use these companies or not. And I think we have to exercise whatever power we have as consumers. Yeah,
we got to roll up our sleeves and solve these problems ourselves. Thanks again, Jeff Deist, for joining us. And keep following Jeff's work at Jeff Deist on Twitter or Mises.org. My Neighbor's Choice will continue with more Science and You is our segment coming up next.
Special report, coronavirus update. 1 in 4 American workers have lost their jobs during this pandemic, filing for unemployment benefits. But the overall number of people currently drawing jobless benefits in the U.S. fell for the first time since the crisis began, from 25 million to 21 million, suggesting some companies are starting to rehire. Correspondent Steve Kastenbaum reports a first for the Boston Marathon amid the coronavirus pandemic. It's been canceled.
The cancellation was a last resort for the Boston Athletic Association, which first postponed their marathon from Patriots Day in April to September. The Boston Marathon has never been canceled throughout its 124-year history. 30,000 people come from across the U.S. and around the world to run the race each year, with most having to meet a qualifying time in order to get in.
The House passed a measure to modify a new paycheck protection program for businesses that have suffered COVID-related losses. Senate passage likely next week. I'm Barbara Cusack.
Every home has a to-do list. That leaky drain, bare spots on the lawn, repainting the trim. To finally get that to-do list done, call in a pro. Over the past 20 years, HomeAdvisor has connected over 100 million homeowners with trusted local pros. And during these times, we're making it easier than ever for great pros to join the HomeAdvisor network. For a limited time, home service businesses can get $200 in free advertising. Visit homeadvisor.com/start for details. That's homeadvisor.com/start.
In uncertain times, you can be certain of this. The Salvation Army is serving those most in need with help and hope. Thanks to your donations, the Salvation Army is helping those affected by COVID-19, those who've lost wages, who have no home to retreat to, who need food, help with utilities, and most of all, hope. To see how you can continue to make a difference, visit GiveWestwood.org. GiveWestwood.org.
Welcome back to A Neighbor's Choice. And now, as always, on our Thursday show, we turn to Science and You. We have our physicist friend, our chief science advisor for all things A Neighbor's Choice, joining us now. Dr. Yu, how you doing?
Hi, David. Thank you for having me.
And thanks for being with us. I wanted to get right to some of the stories. One of the stories that I wanted to talk about is on phys.org. It's physics.org. Ultrasound selectively damages cancer cells when tuned to correct frequencies. This is interesting. The article says, doctors have used focus ultrasound to destroy tumors without invasive surgery for some time. However, the therapeutic ultrasound used in clinics today indiscriminately damages cancer and healthy cells alike. Researchers at the California Institute of Technology have developed low-intensity ultrasound approach that exploits the unique physical and structural properties of tumor cells to target them and provide a more selective, safer option. By scaling down the intensity and carefully tuning the frequency to match the target cells, the group was able to break apart several types of cancer cells without harming healthy blood cells. That's interesting, isn't it, Dr. Yu?
Yes, it's a very interesting. This method in a mechanical world, if you think about the classical mechanical world, we're dealing with motion, right? And the most important motion is vibration. And so somehow, the doctor, the researcher from Caltech, they find, so if we just use ultrasound, sound is just vibration, right? They said, okay, if we just use a vibration and by tuning frequency, and somehow we can break the cancer cell or the damaged cell with a healthy cell. So these are the basic vibration principles. If something lumping together, if you just use certain frequency, you can loosen them because the frequency create a vibration, right? And create a vibration and create heat. So in terms of the cell, vibration and heat can separate the cell, different cells, the cancer cell with the healthy cell. And also the ultrasound, if you're tuning to certain frequency, it can kill the cell because a certain vibration create heat for certain type of cell. Different cell has a different density, have a different natural frequency. So just by using this ultrasound vibration and by tuning frequency, you can separate the damaged cell, cancer cell with healthy cell. So this research, the method is not revolutionary. However, it does can use a simple ultrasound some kind of tool instead of use traditional, say, chemotherapy, immunotherapy, or radiation and surgery. So those are all invasive. And these methods are non-invasive. So I think that's quite interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting. And you would say that every cell in our body has its own unique frequency, right?
Oh, that's right. Basically, every object, it has a natural frequency. It means any object, if you strike them and let it go, it always vibrates at certain frequency. That's called a free vibration frequency. When you strike something, you let it go, you'll hear sound still going, right? It's the frequency in the hearing range. So that is the frequency. If you have an external force, external excitation with the same frequency, it can create resonance. What the resonance means, you do not have to increase input. You just use the same ultrasound in this case, or microwave, create this oscillation. The same oscillation, starting very small, as long as matching resonance frequency, over time, the magnitude will increase and higher. Through that, it can separate two objects stacking together and can create some kind of separation. And also, it can kill cell too. If the vibration with the resonant frequency and exciting any cell high enough will create resonance high enough, will create the heat. Heat can destroy the cell too, can burn the cell out. So that's how you can really use ultrasound and can kill the cancer cell if you know or testing what is the resonance frequency.
So that sound could be a very promising future of medicine that wouldn't be as invasive if used appropriately, right?
That's correct. Now we use ultrasound to inspect the baby in the womb, right? Basically ultrasound can create the vibration, create the electrical signals, and the electrical signal, and then you can display on the screen. Because of different type of muscle or bone and structure give you different type of frequency. So that's why you can show which part is the tissue, which part is the worm, is the bone or something. So, and we also use ultrasound to detect fracture inside of the metal piece, because the vibration will give you a response, returning vibration signals is different if there's a crack with an open area, because I have a lower frequency versus a regular perfect connected piece with higher frequency. So use sound. Does give you all the give you lots of information people are looking for.
Yeah, I think that could open up a possibility that may be a little bit more cost-effective, too, for folks who have issues. If they can use sound, it may not be as expensive, than some of the expensive drugs.
That's right. Sound is not as invasive as electromagnetic resonance, because that could create a higher response. You can create heat and electricity inside the body. So use ultrasound to inspect the baby in the womb would be much, much safer. Then you use X-ray, right? If you use X-ray, so those X-ray are electromagnetic waves. Okay, it's a higher frequency magnetic wave, electromagnetic wave. Then the ultrasound was vibration wave. So ultrasound sound wave is much safer and have good applications here.
And you mentioned heat. Heat is related to inflammation. What's going on? I mean, I know you're not a doctor, you're a physicist, but any thoughts on what is inflammation from a physics level? Because that's something that a lot of people struggle with in different parts of their body, which is related to a lot of chronic illnesses, is constant inflammation. What's happening there with inflammation from a physics perspective from what you've seen?
Oh, okay. the information, basically, it is started with either bacteria or virus. And these are the foreign objects in normal human body. So what happens? The signal sent to the body, the body immune system started react because they detect them as foreign objects. So those detections create, say, what is antibody or the white blood cell try to fight off. So that's where information comes. First, started with small virus or bacteria. You may not even realize, the body may not realize, and you do not have a color, you do not have feel, until your immunization system started to work against them. So what that happens? Basically, it has a war inside of your body. So they have a huge interaction, and those interactions create heat, and also create a blockage, because a lot of things start to clot in one area, try to active, so create heat, create blockage, and heat create pain. So that's where you feel some kind of inflammation. So it's actually the body immune system reacting to foreign objects, try to kill them or encapsulate them. So that's the body reaction. So what the real medicine does, instead of using your own immune system against the medication, it will say like antibiotics. It is itself is a highly charged, magnetic charged particle. It can find this kind of bacteria or virus, which are also charged particles. So by using those kind of opposite, pole, charged particle, it can neutralize them instead of make them have a highly interactive, charged interactive, make it neutralized. So your body detects just like a water, it's just like a acid and versus alkaline type of material. So they create a neutral type of material, water. So now your body will feel like, oh yeah, that's common material in the body, but they don't have to fighting that hard. So you don't feel pain anymore, and so you don't see bumps, red color bumps on your body.
So from a physics perspective, the antibiotics are kind of like a crutch for your immune system whenever it gets a problem, like crutches.
Right. Yes. So
and that's why you have to be careful about using too much invasive therapies or drugs, because if you use crutches too much, you become dependent, and then you can't fight off. If you use crutches all the time, you can't walk. And if you use antibiotics all the time, then your immune system will be not very strong, right? Is that kind of how to look at it?
That's correct. So if you over prescribe the antibiotics, so your body basically treat antibiotics basically as the same thing as your regular body. What happens? So your immune system may not help you to react when you have antibiotics and try to fighting with the virus. So your immune system basically sit in idle. So that's not help, right? So, and you still want the body. You want the body to recognize the antibiotic. Whenever you have an antibiotic, your body immune system try to cooperate and work with them, and try to fight the virus.
Yeah, one of the things I like whenever I talk to you is it just reminds me, you're a physicist, and I wish that there was more of an interaction between the world of physics and medicine, because I know there's emerging biophysics or different little fields, but they're kind of on the margins. But I wish that physics and proper physics could have more of an interaction with the medical science world to try to create more of a cohesive foundational knowledge for the body that may be able to help us solve problems that are right under our noses, solutions,
That's right. And this article about the ultrasound kill cancer cell. It is actually apply physical principles. Apply physical principle. Ultrasound is a vibration, and the vibration has certain frequencies, and the different frequencies and can create, can make a particles separate, and can or make them sticking together. So this is a good application with classical physics, with medical things. And there are so many areas, and the physical principles can really help advance the medical therapy.
We're speaking with Dr. Yu, doing our Science and You segment. You can always email us. Email us hello@aneighborschoice.com. That's hello@aneighborschoice.com. If you have a story you'd like to share or a question or comment, hello@aneighborschoice.com is the place to send it to. We'll continue with Dr. Yu in just a moment.
A lawsuit is not something that anyone looks forward to. It can be devastating. There is a law firm in Tampa Bay that will keep you informed throughout the entire process. That law firm is Catania & Catania. Personal injury law is defended with full disclosure. There is no guessing game. If it's an auto accident, medical malpractice, nursing home negligence, unsafe work conditions, or motorcycle accidents, the law firm of Catania & Catania will handle the process free from start to finish. Many victims do not even realize that they can claim compensation for their loss until they talk to Catania & Catania. They only represent private individuals and treat every case as if it's going to trial. Putting families first is more than just a slogan. It's their way of practicing law. It's a commitment to you. Remember, they don't get paid if you don't get paid. So go to CataniaCatania.com, award-winning over 28 years and family first. Catania & Catania, personal injury, auto accident, and motorcycle accident attorneys.
If you know anything about NFL or about NCAA basketball or football or NHL or whatever, entertainment television, make sure you make a deposit at betdsi.com.
Promo code Bubba100.
Again, make a deposit. They've been getting a lot of great response from the Bubba Army. Make your deposit using promo code Bubba100. It's simple. Go to betdsi.com.
Promo code Bubba100.
Sign up with the Bubba100 code and make that deposit and get your bonus, plus have some fun at the safest wagering site available. Fast, on-time paying their winnings out, incredibly mobile friendly. And if you haven't already signed up, then go now. Make your deposit at betdsi.com.
Promo code Bubba100.
Bubba100 gets you a special bonus and gets you in the game. Again, www.betdsi.com, and at the promo code portion,
Bubba100.
Bubba100. Thank you.
Man, how can you afford gas for that big SUV? I pay less for gas than everyone else. I got the free Get Upside Gas app and get up to 25 cents a gallon cash back every time I buy gas.
Hold on. You're getting up to 25 cents off a gallon with the free Get Upside Gas app while I'm paying full price?
You know it. People earned over $1 million last year. You just got to take a picture of your gas receipt and bam, up to 25 cents a gallon cash back.
You don't have to tell me twice. I'm downloading the free Get Upside Gas app now.
Download the free Get Upside app now in the App Store or Google Play to save up to 25 cents a gallon when you buy gas. Use promo code TRUCK for a 20-cent a gallon bonus on your first tank. That's up to 45 cents a gallon on your next tank. Just download the free Get Upside app at the App Store or Google Play and use promo code TRUCK. Save money on gas on every fill-up. Download the free Get Upside app and use promo code TRUCK. That's TRUCK.
Neighbor's Choice is back. I'm David Gornoski. We're doing our Science and You show segment with our friend, physicist Dr. Yu. Always great to hear from my friend, Dr. Yu, because he's got such a wealth of knowledge and such a joy about science and learning. And it's very contagious joy, Dr. Yu. I've seen you interact with people around the country, and you're always very excited to talk about science and physics with anybody of all ages, and give people a lot of kindness with your patience and teaching people. There's a website, techcrunch.com. They've got a story that came out 2 days ago titled, "With $84 million in new cash, Commonwealth Fusion," which is a company, is on track for a demonstration fusion reactor by 2025. Now, this is exciting because most of the fusion projects always say they're 30 years out or something. So this one's saying 2025. This company called Commonwealth Fusion Systems, they just closed on their latest funding round 2 weeks ago, $84 million. It's a U.S. company. It was, or looks like it is, and it was, let's get into some of the details about it. The core innovation, the article says, was the development of a high-power superconducting magnet that could theoretically be used to create the conditions necessary for a sustained fusion reaction. The reactor uses hydrogen isotopes that are kept under conditions of extreme pressure using the superconducting magnets to sustain the reaction and contain the energy that's generated from the reaction. Designs for reactors require their hydrogen fuel source to be heated to tens of millions of degrees. Wow, that's pretty hot. It says let's go on to the article. Upon completion, the Commonwealth Fusion Systems will have built a 10-ton magnet that has the magnetic force equivalent to 20 MRI machines. The article says, after we get the magnet to work, we'll be building a machine that will generate more power than it takes to run. We see that as the Kitty Hawk moment for fusion. So that's a reference to the flight, moment of that they're talking about. So, Dr. Yu, any thoughts on that?
Yes, I think we played this movie, this story before so often. One key things we remember. Number one, they always, raise a new funding. The funding is always in the tens of $1 million. In this case, the latest $84 million in new funding. So they always raise millions of dollars funding. And the technology, it always says this is a demonstration fusion reactor by 2025. So always 5 years down the road. So this is they always need money and always 5 years away. And if you read more, they said, even by then, may still need still far away from real household application. So in my opinion, and this follows the same methodology-wise as all the previous ones using a big funding method. They try to create a fusion, use hydrogen fuel, try fusing them together, fuse called hydrogen molecules together, and to create helium. And during that time, you see mass reduction, and then you see energy increase. So but in order to fuse them together, and the current theory said that you always need tens of millions of degrees, like hotter than at the core center of the sun, that's 27 million degrees. You need to create those. So why people never succeed, by going through this way? Because in order to create tens of millions of degrees, so you have to use a container to hold it. But no container can sustain this kind of heat. So what can you do? So you have to use a huge magnet to keep the heat away from the wall of the reactor. So that's all the money, through the money, try to keep the heat away from the wall. And that's something very, very difficult to do. And I believe going down this road, you will never ever achieve true goal that create a fusion energy. So that's what I believe. But instead of try to fuse things together, which I believe you cannot fuse any two things together, create more energy. You only consume energy. You consume energy to tie these two things together. You will never ever get more energy out of the fusion. So what I believe, the so-called fusion reaction, nuclear reaction, it is a type of nuclear fission. It is a split atom. It is a split the subatomic particles away from them. That's where energy created. It's not by fusing them. However, when you have a new hydrogen nuclear bomb, create a fusion reaction, we do see the end product. We are able to measure the neutron, and we are also able to measure helium, some kind of helium-3 or helium. So we do see a third product. So that's why we got misled by this. With the observation, we thought, in order to create fusion, we have to fuse them together. So that's why we can see hydrogen turns to helium. I believe that's not true. Yeah. So helium forms is during nuclear fission reaction. After reaction, after the included hydrogen atoms, when they split, when those hydrogen atoms split with electrons and split them, and even nucleus split from the neutron and the proton and the neutrons, when they split, that's where your energy comes from. And however, after the cooling down, those charged electrons and also protons, those charged particles, as they cooling down, what happens? They try to interact with other charged particles. That's where you can see during the cooling down section, it will form those kind of helium particles. So the nuclear energy created is due to the split atom, nucleus. It's not due to fusing things together.
So we can create nuclear energy that doesn't require dangerous radioactive conditions like Fukushima, right?
That's right.
But
now, yes.
But we can't.
In order to create a fusion, so we don't need it. We can use vibration, excitation, electro excitation to create split energy, split atom. Use a resonance frequency to split them to create energy.
Does that require billions of dollars?
No, actually, you can use a tabletop device
Doctor,
and perform in the regular market.
Dr. Yu, always a pleasure to talk to you, and we'll see you next week on A Neighbor's Choice. Godspeed.
Your home for news, talk,